Hello there. So this video I'm gonna make is entitled "Why I'm Not a Democrat." And when people have asked me about my political party, it kind of surprises them when I answer this way. And for a while, I really couldn't even answer this way because I was involved in a campaign. But I'm not a Democrat at all. Um, why I'm not a Democrat is basically because I don't believe the Democratic Party is a liberal party anymore at all. I don't even think it masquerades as one. Um, that sounds a little bit crazy when you think about it, but all you have to do is really look at recent history to prove this is the case. So in 2008, President Obama made quite a few promises, and I have some of them right here, so I'm going to just read them directly. He promised to strengthen the ability of workers to organize unions and fight to pass the Employee Free Choice Act. Hasn't done it. Ensure that federal employees have the right to collectively bargain. Hasn't done it. Fight to ban the permanent replacement of striking workers. Hasn't done it. Ensure every American is able to earn up to 7 paid sick days, which is insane even at being that low. Hasn't done it. Expand the earned income tax credit. Hasn't done it. Raise the minimum wage and index it to inflation. Hasn't done it. Encourage diversity and clarify the public interest obligations of broadcasters who occupy the nation's spectrum. Basically, what that means is preventing mergers of huge media corporations. Definitely hasn't done that. Working to reform bankruptcy laws. Hasn't done it. Reform NAFTA so that it works better for all three Northern American countries. Definitely hasn't done that. In fact, he's done terrible, similar free trade deals with other countries. I think he's done about 3 or 4 of them, mostly in Asia, mostly mostly brokered by Hillary Clinton, who will probably be our next president. Um, put all bills. Well, first of all, before I go into these other things, did you notice what all those involved? Those all involved corporate power. All of those challenge corporate power, and it just so happens all of them never happened. That is not some freak accident. That's because the people who funded the Obama campaign and fund the Democratic Party are corporations, and they will do their bidding. The Democrats really are not all that different than the Republicans. The Republicans are just more extreme in what rights they want to give to corporations. That's the only real difference between the two parties on that front. And I mean, there are other examples that weren't pledges that you can really see this happening. Like there was an amendment to buy prescription drugs from Canada, which if you really do support free trade agreements, that'd be free trade, wouldn't it? I mean, importing prescription drugs from another country without tariffs or bans on it. That's literally the definition of free trade. But the Democrats, this wasn't even the Republicans that did this. The Democrats shut that down. We could all be ordering cheaper medication right now, and some people wouldn't even really need prescription insurance because we could import medication so cheap. But the Democrats and President Obama literally killed that amendment, because their corporate donors didn't like it. The whole reason we have the healthcare reform we have is because Obama did a deal with Big Pharma in the beginning stating, you know what, we're going to make this an insurance mandate so you'll get a lot of new customers, and yeah, we're going to do some regulations, but don't worry, we'll get you new customers, so ultimately this bill will benefit you. And that's the only reason we have the bill we have. That's why we don't have a public option. There's plenty of reporting that while Obama was publicly saying he was trying to push for a public option, he wasn't actually doing it. He had already settled on giving up on the public option. And that's just another example of corporate power basically dictating the Democratic Party. And their regulatory reform, where they were supposed to, prevent future bailouts, has so many loopholes. It was literally written by lobbyists. And I mean that literally. It was literally written by lobbyists for the financial services industry. The guy who wrote it, who I should say sponsored it, Chris Dodd, actually is the same person who fought for SOPA, which is like the worst piece of legislation ever that effectively would have crippled the internet if the Netroots hadn't really blown the top off what was going on in Congress. So yeah, same guy who wrote that, Chris Dodd. And then you just have to think, well, who passed NAFTA in the first place? That was Bill Clinton, another Democrat. Who gutted welfare? Who put in place all these barriers to it that made it so effectively, even if you're on welfare, you can't live? That was Bill Clinton. He had a bunch of his staff resign over that. Who's cut food stamps? Barack Obama has been the one that's cut food stamps. Who's cut welfare spending the most of all the presidents in my lifetime? Barack Obama. Who supports illegal wiretapping of American citizens? Barack Obama. And the Democrats. I mean, the Democrats largely accept the NSA overreach, some more promises he made. Require cabinet officials to have national online town hall meetings to discuss issues that are going to be before their agencies. Definitely didn't do that. Put all bills that Congress has passed online for 5 days before the president signs them into law so people can look at them and comment on them. Hasn't done that. Reject the use of national security letters to spy on citizens who are not suspected of a crime. That is literally funny. It's so untrue. Reject the tracking of citizens who do nothing more than protest a misguided war. There are documents showing the NSA targeted people who were speaking out against the war. Reject sweeping claims of inherent presidential power. The Obama administration has used this to cover their ass so many times. Respect the principle of habeas corpus to challenge, for prisoners to challenge the terms of their own detention. Did we do that to any of the people that we put before military tribunals? Did we do that to the people we killed in drone strikes that were illegal, particularly people who were American citizens? No, we didn't do that. The Democratic Party is not a liberal party. And it's a party run by corporations. It's a party that's quite conservative now, even in national security. You do not hear anybody really question Israel's extensive use of military force on civilian populations in the Democratic Party. I could go on for days of how the Democratic Party is not a liberal party anymore. And the only way that's going to change is a constitutional amendment getting money out of politics. That is half the reason why the Democratic Party is so horrible. And I know I'm attacking the Democratic Party and all this, but the Republican Party is so cartoonishly evil that, I feel like I don't even need to say that the Republicans are obviously no better. They're infinitely worse. it boggles my mind that half the country even takes the Republicans seriously at this point, but there really isn't any representation. I mean, a lot of these issues, like on taxation and corporate power, most of the American people are very liberal on, but have no representation in Congress for. And that's fundamentally the problem, and that's what needs to change. And that's why I'm not a Democrat.